And so it's Harlequins and Croker, no less. It's time to start harping on rugby. Hello, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to Harpin On Rugby, where with the help of some fellow fans, I get the chance to harp on what's going on with Leinster, Ireland, and the wider rugby world. First up, joining me this week, we have someone making appearance number 43. Welcome back to Mr. Rich Masouds.
Good evening, Jeff. Good evening, Dave.
Good to see you. And the other Leinster fan joining me this week is earning his 7th cap. Hello to Mr. David Cordial.
Hello, Jeff. Good to be here.
Indeed. Right, well, let's crack on with our feature match of the week, which was, of course, Leinster v Bath in round 4 of the 24-25 Investec Rugby Champions Cup. It was played at the Aviva Stadium on Saturday, January the 18th. Conditions at HQ were a bit chilly, but otherwise perfect for rugby. And after all the pre-match palaver, including Mike McCarthy and Leo the Lions antics, plus the pyrotechnics, we had Finn Russell kicking off towards the South Stand, Rich.
He did indeed. Before I rewatched it, I thought I'd come up with this little placard here, which I don't know whether you can see or not. It says, "I always get the shit half."
He does. That is true. It's pretty much guaranteed.
However, having watched that back, that was an awesome half of rugby. It may not have been what we wanted to see from a Leinster perspective, but it was an awesome half of rugby.
It was indeed.
From an entertainment perspective. So yeah, Bath kicked off. They regathered their own kickoff. And then they proceeded to unlock our defense, which has been so magnificent over the past few weeks. But Bath found a way. They found a way twice, actually, doing similar things. And that was that they probed us left, then they probed us through the center, and then they probed us right with a crossfield kick. All this in the first couple of minutes of the match. Then they quickly went left again with a couple of passes, and they found Glanville, who charged down their left wing, our right. I think there was a bit of ringer inexperience here on defending on the wing. Then again, that's down to the selection and putting him in that position. So he bit in, and the Glanville basically went past him and then released the ball to Hill on the wing, who got it to almost the line, but he was short by about 2 or 3 meters. But they quickly recycled to Barbary, Alfie Barbary, who ran a good line, and there was no stopping him from 3 meters out. And all of a sudden, we were staring at what was to become a 7-0 scoreline against, and not 2 minutes had gone on the clock. So I think that was a bit of or it certainly was a bit of a shock to the system. And it's not that we played badly, because we did not. And most certainly when you watch it on the rewatch, you can see that the reaction to going behind that early on was a pretty good one. So there was plenty of good face play over the next few minutes from us. Then that led to nothing. Bath cleared to the halfway line. So we secured the ball, but the Bath interestingly blitzed defense from them. But then again, they have Van Graan as their coach. Made us spill the ball. It was hacked through by Finn Russell, who went for a Jordan Lama pick up off the floor, but didn't quite get to it because Sam Prendergast toe poked it into the end goal area, and it was dotted down by Max Deegan. So the long and the short of it was that after 6 minutes or so, there's a scrum 5 to Bath. They go right off the bench, off the base of the scrum. Spencer finds Russell, and with Lawrence running a decoy line that momentarily holds Deegan in place, Russell passes to the Glanville, who's had a storming first few minutes of the match, and he goes through. And this is, our defense here was pretty poor. Admittedly, he was close to the line, and he's a big lad, but he went straight through 9, 10, and 11 like a hot knife through butter. He lands just short of the line. He rolls over and dots down. So all of a sudden, we're 14 down. Yes, a well-worked try, offset piece, but the fact of the matter is that was weak defense. I'm not saying they would have held him up, but at least try and do something until the big guns come along. And Max Deegan was actually, if you look at the replay, Max Deegan was drifting across, but having been momentarily halted by the dummy line, Lawrence, he just couldn't get there on time. Otherwise, perhaps he might have been able to do so. So all of a sudden, there was questions from the comms on the match as to how we would respond, and no doubt the same questions were being asked by Leinster supporters across the world. I certainly was. Let's see how we react to this. I mean, there was still plenty of a match to be played, so it was pretty early on, so that we had plenty of time to organize things and sort ourselves out. And that is precisely what we did. And for the next 20-25 minutes, it was all Leinster. We put pressure on them in their 22. Spencer slices his clearance off his weaker foot, so we get a line out just within the Bath 22, which is our first meaningful possession within their 22. We secure the line out, and I think I'd like to make the point, because we have been hammering them over the past few weeks as to our woes at line out time. But the fact of the matter is that at least in this particular match, that seems to have been put to bed quite well. We weren't flawless by any stretch, but we secured the vast majority of our line out, and indeed disrupted theirs in line out defense as well. So pretty happy with how the line out has improved over the last couple of weeks, and hopefully that continues, because having a strong set piece, as we all know, is crucial. Add to that what is increasingly becoming a very strong scrum again, not least with Slimani, who is locking down that scrum. And to be perfectly honest, he should have been player of the match, honestly, because he just took them to the cleaners. He really did. But anyway, we move on. We go 4 carries through the middle of that line out. A long pass to Hugo on the right. Got a couple of options. He's got Ringer to his right. He's got Robbie Henshaw to his left, coming up over his left shoulder. He chooses the Robbie Henshaw option. He's running on his inside shoulder, and Robbie then just weaves past their defence from about 10 metres out and scores. A very well worked try. We tied their defence into the middle and quickly went wide right, then marginally back inside to Robbie, and he made no mistake. Unfortunately, we didn't convert from that try. So all of a sudden, it's looking a bit more rosy. We've cut the deficit down to 5-14. And like I said earlier, for these 15-20 minutes, it was pretty much all Leinster. Bath were pretty much on the defensive. They obviously they didn't have to score, but they certainly weren't creating much. So anyway, we over the next 4 or 5 minutes until we get to about the 15th minute, there's a few, again, nice passages of play that leads to a Gary Owen from Sam, which Bath have great difficulty in clearing, and only do so eventually from deep within their own 22. But they only find Hugo near halfway. And if anybody had told me before the match that this guy had been out for so long through injury, I'd have thought, on what we saw yesterday, I would have thought, no way. He just seems to be one of these guys who just slots back in. He doesn't seem to have an issue with stamina, with speed, with game speed at all. So what a performance again yesterday from Hugo. I just thought I'd highlight that at that point. So anyway, he goes for a nice little jaunt upfield till he gets to about 30 meters out, and then Jamison goes right to Sam, to Big Joe, off to Ringer, then Max Deegan, and eventually the ball comes to Geordie Barrett, who played yet another stormer yesterday. Easily his best position at 12 by a country mile. Great line and great run down the right hand side, and almost gets to the line. He releases the ball, obviously, because he goes to ground, but unfortunately, momentarily, to a Bath player who's eventually, after they try and recycle, is adjudged, and it's actually Beno Obano, who's pinged for not releasing one phase later. So We get a penalty 5 meters out from their line. Interestingly, Finn Russell goes off for an HIA at this point, and you could see over the next 10 minutes or so how this affected Bath, certainly from their kicking perspective, quite apart from the management of the team, without Bailey coming on. But it's chalk and cheese. It's not most certainly not in the same league as Finn Russell. So anyway, we go for touch 5 meters out. We go short, and several carries take us almost to the line. We get penalty advantage for offside, and Jamison goes left to Geordie again, who quickly releases Robbie on his shoulder, and pretty much Robbie goes over virtually untouched, other than a large ditch attempt by Ollie Lawrence, who was already in his in-goal area anyway. So all of a sudden we've reduced that because it's converted to so it's a 2-point game. So from being 14 down after 6 minutes or so, 10 minutes later, we're almost level pegging. For the next few minutes until the end of the of that first quarter, it's pretty much played between the two 22-meter lines, but not much momentum. And the momentum is still with us, but certainly it's not going further than the 22-meter line. But interestingly, the Bath penalty count is growing whilst this is happening. We don't make hay while the sun is shining on these, but at the very least, that certainly is happening, and this will have an impact later on in the matches. No doubt Dave will cover. So over from about the 21st to the 27th, 28th minute, another good passage of attacking play. And I think it's important to mention here because we have been critical of our attacking play, our attacking shape, our fluidity in attack. But there was certainly a marked improvement yesterday, even in that first half, where watching it live, I thought, "Oh shit, we're back to all the inaccuracies and all the rubbish." But the fact of the matter is that we weren't. We actually played pretty decently in that first half in an attacking perspective. And the one area of our game plan that was suffering, which hasn't been the case throughout the whole season, was our defence. But I think you need to attribute that to the fact that because I did wonder before this match what the impact, once I saw the selection, what the impact of moving Ringer to the wing would be, and I think that was pretty evident in yesterday's match. Our defence suffered. It was certainly not on point as it has been. He certainly leads that defence brilliantly, and that wasn't in evidence because he was pretty much shunted to the right. Whether that was designed to give us some greater creativity and some greater go forward ball, possibly, I wouldn't play him there again, to be honest, because it's not his position. He was misused and misdeployed in that position, in my own very humble opinion, obviously. So anyway, like I said, there was another good passage of play here following a fluffed line out from us. Brilliant take from Hugo in the air, and he was absolutely imperious yesterday. He manages to release Jamie Osborne, who charges upfield, but unfortunately we give away a pen, which then Spencer kicks dead. So it's a scrum to us on their 10-meter in midfield. It ends up with a tackle on suspicion from penalty from Bath, and they were guilty of that a lot yesterday. I think that they were pinged about 3 or 4 times, tackling on suspicion. So anyway, we kicked a touch on their 22. The ensuing phases result in us holding on, so we give away a pen, and Russell comes back from his HIA. But over the next couple of minutes, on the 30th minute, again Bath infringed, and they were actually issued with an official warning by the ref at that point. And interestingly, and I think this was the reason why they weren't yellow carded for repeated infringement over the next few phases of play, because they actually did infringe after this warning. For about 2 or 3 times, is because he'd actually asked Spencer to talk to his players. Spencer was talking to his players as instructed by the ref in a huddle, and all of a sudden Sam asks him to go quickly, and he says to Sam, "Yeah, go ahead." So Sam goes quickly. I mean, it comes to nothing, thankfully, but just imagine if that had been a try to us. I mean, to be fair to the ref, he was very apologetic to Ben Spencer after that. Fair dues to him. But it just, these are the kinds of things that which irk supporters. So we're now up to minute 33, and actually there was a very important couple of minutes here. Minutes 33 to 35 are pretty crucial to the outcome of this match. Come to Bath, but we get a penalty from it. Slimani again, proving awesome. We go to the corner, we secure the line out, go for a few phases in field. In one of these, and it's not that evident from in real time, but Jamison gets clunked on the head. And the only inkling you get of it is that there's a couple of phases later, and Jack Conan carries. He goes down, recycles, and he's actually tapping his head. And I think he's trying to attract because he was captain, obviously. He's trying to attract the ref's attention. And this is an example of very good captaincy from Jack. So anyway, the play comes to naught because we knock on, and so it's a scrum to Bath just under their own posts. But Jack keeps harping on, excuse the pun, on the ref's ear. And the ref, you hear the conversation between them, and the ref is saying, no, there was no foul play, didn't see any foul play, blah, blah, blah. And Jack keeps saying, well, look at him. look at. And Jamison's cheek is burst open and blood is pouring down. And it's then that the ref actually consults the TMO. And, it's then that you actually see what's really happened. So anyway, Ben Obano, who has been the repeat infringer during this match, because he carries on doing so throughout the remainder of the match, he gets yellow carded. So off he goes. Jamison goes off for an HIA, and Lukey comes on, who carried himself very well during Jamison's absence from the pitch. So anyway, we go for the scrum. That goes up. So we reset. Jack carries hard off the base, and he's stopped almost on the line, but it's recycled. There's one small carry from James Ryan. Then Jack carries again within about 15 seconds of his initial carry, and he dots down. So all of a sudden, we've taken a 5-point lead with the conversion, with a couple of minutes on the clock. And this is where we get stupid again. We get lulled into some false sense of security for some obscure reason. We don't deal with clearance as well as we ought to have. Then Big Joe gives away a silly pen about 30 out. Bath with penalty advantage do exactly the same thing they did to us in that first couple of minutes. They draw us one way, they draw us the other. Eventually they come right very quickly. So it's Russell to Lawrence. Lawrence runs a lovely line. There's no way any other 13 is starting for England in a couple of weeks' time other than him. And he cuts inside past Jamie Osborne, who's completely flat-footed. Hugo's caught in no man's land, obviously, by now. As a result of this, then he offloads to de Glanville, who goes over in the corner. Very well worked out try. Yes, our defence could have been an awful lot better, but clearly this is a blueprint for how to beat our blitz defence. That said, I would add a caveat to that. Yesterday wasn't our blitz defence as instructed by Jack Nienaber. Or maybe it was, but it certainly wasn't put into practice as it has been over the past several weeks. Let's put it this way: had we been that loose last week against La Rochelle, we're not coming away from there with a result. That's for certain.
Yeah, they weren't. They certainly weren't going for the double hits the way they were last week.
Oh, no, they weren't. No, they weren't. So anyway, it was Bath into the lead yet again, 19-21, and that's half time.
Yeah, I mean, we had Mark Jackson on doing our preview, and he watches a lot of the Premiership, so he was a good person to go to about it. And when he was talking about the Bath lineup, he picked out two players in particular, Ted Hill and Alfie Barbary in their back row. And Bath. I mean, if you're going to go to the Aviva and you think you're up against it, and you want to attack from the start, they had the kickoff. They did everything you should do. They did a short restart. They went after it. They won it back, and then they just went straight for the kill from there. And those two exact players were the ones getting it to the line and finishing it off. It was a great start, and of course they followed it up again with the second try. So it was an amazing start. But that's not the first time Leinster have had a big game with the Aviva when we've gone behind, given away one, maybe sometimes even two tries in the early stages, and then you're behind on the scoreboard, but we haven't had the ball yet. And we don't know until we've had the ball what we're going to do. And there were some great performances in that first half, like you picked out Hugo Keenan. The thing about him, this isn't the first time we've seen him come back from an injury and literally hit the ground running, literally. He was taking all the catches. Obviously, the access laws do help in that regard, but still, the catches he was taking and the way he was setting up the tries and just slotting in perfectly. You swear to he could be out injured for a year and then go straight into a World Cup final and be able to play. I mean, he's been that kind of player for Leinster over the years, and then Slimani as well. It just when you look at all the penalties Obano was shipping. A lot of them were in open play as well. He was doing some, like he got the yellow card there, but the ones at the scrum, I mean, Slimani was owning him there, and he's been doing so well in the scrum for us this season. It's amazing, and of course, he's been selected for the French squad. Hopefully, he'll be available for Leinster, in particular for the South African tour immediately after it. But he's earned that call up, and he's been doing really well, and he's been crucial to us when we needed our set piece. So we got our way back from that early setback, but a lot of people talk about the test players on our team, but you got Finn Russell as well. You've got Ollie Lawrence storming through and they're always capable of scoring tries like that. Even a man down, they, like you say, they stretched our defense. They found the space out wide. They beat the man and got the lead at the halftime. So what did you make of the first half, David?
It was definitely not I was in the stadium on the night, and it definitely not the start that I think we were hoping for. Leinster went into that match with a very clear idea of what we wanted out of it in terms of not just the match result, but trying to pad our coffers in terms of hopefully securing second seed, and for Bath to launch the start they did. Really took the wind out of the sails. And I think anyone who was there on the night would know, just based on how incredibly quiet, aside from the small pockets of Bath supporters around the stadium, how incredibly quiet the place was 10 minutes in. But hats off to Bath. It was a very impressive opening. It's very similar to what Leinster have done. Even if you think of the Champions Cup final in the Aviva a few years ago, obviously didn't work out for Leinster on the night, but that opening blitz, it not giving your opponent a chance to warm up if they haven't warmed up already, catching them completely off guard. The first try from Bath, I thought was wasn't kind of indicative of something that I think Rich mentioned as becoming a problem over the course of the game, and that was that Gary Ringrose is an excellent 13. He's not used to defending from the wing. Bath got wide very fast there, and it ended up with, I think it was Sam Prendergast in a 2-on-1 on the outside. He made the tackle on his man as is what he's required to do in that situation, and eventually cover did get across to stop the attack just about 5 meters out, but we'd given up 30 or 40 meters at that stage, and then it was a simple matter for the next player up to dart over once our defense was fairly scrambled. And it seemed to me like that's probably not going to happen if Ringer is one in and someone who's more used to defending on the wingers on the outside. The second try was much more opportunistic. Ball goes loose and gets fly hacked through, and then Sam Prendergast did well initially to chip the ball forward so it could be dotted down to stop the try off the initial hack through, but then it was just a nice move off the back of a 5 meter scrum. 5 meter scrums in the middle of the pitch, very hard to defend at the best of times, and Leinster were already on the back foot at that stage, having conceded early. So those two quick tries, that was within 7.5 minutes. I think it's worth noting then that Leinster didn't hesitate to hit back, and the two tries from Robbie Henshaw, I thought they were very, in both cases, he had a lot of work to do by the time he got onto the end of them, and they were quite strong finishes at the end. The first one, very nice bit of attack with James Gibson Park doing a nice cutout pass, cutting past about 5 or 6 defenders, and then Keenan would pass back inside and Henshaw running through. Much more kind of structured play, and then it was a pass off the top of a line out for Henshaw's second one again. Good responses. Don't panic. 7.5 minutes. It's as bad a start as you're likely to get, but the only thing worse than that start is letting it get to you and letting it affect your game plan. And it didn't seem like Leinster did. They hit back pretty quickly. I did think, and we won't spoil what happens later on in the next half, I did think, looking back on it, Obano was probably lucky to only get a yellow card in that situation. It could have easily been a red. The mitigation was given that Gibson Park changed direction quickly. I didn't think he changed direction that quickly. And it was full on head to head. So he was, I thought, under the circumstances, lucky enough to only get away with a yellow, which is kind of mad considering how long it took to draw attention back to it in the first place. And then, of course, off the back of that, with them down to 14. It was Jack Conan. I think we called for a scrum, and it was Jack Conan off the back of that for Leinster's third try there. And just at the end of the half, I did think as well. If there's one thing I've criticized Hugo Keenan for in that situation, it was when we blitzed up just before their last try. Like, we'd done quite well to get back into the lead. They were down to 14 men. We did the drift defense quite well, and we're following that to the left. But there was an instance there where I think it was Jamie Osborne and Hugo Keenan, and the pair of them were drifting out, and the pair of them were watching the Bath player, waiting for him to pass it outside, and he just looked at both of them and went, "Okay, if you're not attacking me, I'll just keep going." And he
spun around,
And Hugo Keenan's at one point looking over his shoulder for the person he's supposed to be tackling. So little stuff like that, will be caught up, and particularly in a system that requires the level of constant athleticism, constant pace as Jack Nienaber. That's it's going to take some getting used to, even for someone as good as Hugo Keenan. So that'd be my one criticism of him on that front. But given the scant amount of scoring that Bath did after that point, I think Leinster definitely managed to make up for not being at the races from the very beginning, and not letting that poor opening hamper what they came there to do for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, despite shipping 3 tries, I mean, I still think our defense played a part in the way the half went. Like Rich said, Bath were shipping a lot of penalties, but they were kind of forced into trying things like that quickly taken kick that ended up going dead and stuff like that. The teams have to do that against us, because they're trying to find ways of avoiding being drawn into a long series of phases against a set Leinster defense. They want to turn us, they want to push us back, they want us, they want to create kind of open spaces and stuff. But and then in terms of our attack, we've had worries about that, and there were issues where, like, Bath's defense was doing well, they were getting turnovers, but we were kind of getting ourselves isolated at times as well. So there was a lot going on there. But as they went into the halftime, it was more or less a fair enough score the way the half had gone. And like we said, the scoreline at halftime was Leinster 19, Bath 21. Now, before we return to the pod, first, a little reminder of all the different places you'll find us in the Rugger Sphere, like our YouTube channel, where we post extra clips, including this week a look at the road to Cardiff for all 4 Irish provinces. To get access to our latest content, as well as our presence on all the different social media platforms, you can bookmark us at linktree/Harpin On Rugby. We do most of our social media on Blue Sky this weather, so do follow us there if you can, and please be sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe as needed. Now, as the Leinster players returned to the pitch for the second half, I was looking out for that number 9 jersey in particular, and sure enough, Jemison Gibson Park was okay to return, albeit with those stitches under his eye, and it was his fellow halfback, Sam Prendergast, getting the second half underway, David.
Yeah, so as you said yourself, Leinster got us started back off, and Gibson Park did return to the field at the start of the half, looking a little bit worse for the wear, and certainly not for the squeamish. Leinster restarted and chased up, but Ben Spencer, I think, was cleared it up to touch. It was for a Leinster lineout. Leinster got through phases, and Osborne carried hard quite well. Leinster managed to string started to string midfield phases together, but it was actually called to a halt for a Bath injury on the pitch. So credit to the referee for spotting the down player and identifying that as a flashpoint. So Leinster end up with a midfield scrum, off the back of which Jody Barrett carried very hard up the left hand side. But in an attempt to offload to Robbie Henshaw, knocked it on, giving Bath a scrum in their own half. They play off the back and kicked it clear, but Jamie Osborne from the left wing came in and won the aerial contest. Leinster go wide, and Josh van der Fleer, continuing in his ever excellent form, carried hard up the right wing. Leinster go coast to coast, sending Jack Conan up the left wing. Nice, very soft hands from Sam Prendergast, then managed to send Jody Barrett through the middle, and a lovely floated pass over to Josh van der Fleer on the right to carry. Led to some nice Leinster attack, leading them almost up to outside the 22, but they were ultimately turned over, allowing Bath to kick long to touch. At this point, Leinster are able to deploy what has become their secret weapon not so secret weapon, I suppose, in European Cup matches, and R.A. Snyman and Caelan Doris come off the bench to replace James Ryan and Max Deegan. Bath go up and win the line-out and begin putting phases together outside the Leinster 22, but are penalised for crossing, giving Sam Prendergast the opportunity to clear just inside for a line-out just inside the Leinster half. Leinster win the line-out and go up the middle of Caelan Doris, not wasting time, getting involved in the heavy carrying. But some errant passes cost Leinster territory, and they end up box kicking, which gives Bath penalty, or gives Bath possession back rather. Russell attempts a very nice kick up the middle, slightly overplays it, but saved when it actually bounces off the hoarding around the edge of the post, which I hadn't seen before. But he got lucky on that front, and Hugo Keenan ends up clearing it to touch outside the Leinster 22. Bath go up and win the line out and play off the maul, but they knock on, giving Leinster a scrum. At this point, Thomas DeToit comes on at tight head. Leinster play off the back, and I think Ben O'Bano had come back from his yellow card at this stage. Leinster play off the back and attack up the left, pulling phases together, but Bath exerting very strong blitz defence pressure at this stage, making it difficult for Leinster to make much progress. But they persist and eventually manage to work their way up to just outside the 22. But an attempt to go wide leads to I think it's Jamie Osborne trying to send Josh van der Fleer up the left wing, and it just catches him over the shoulder and ends up getting knocked on into touch, giving Bath possession and another scrum inside their own half. At which point Quinn Rue is subbed off. Quinn Rue is quietly involved in the last team. I'd forgotten until this game that he was playing a straight with Bath at this stage. Still going strong at 34 years old, and he's replaced at this stage by Charlie Ewells. Bath play off the back, but Leinster are able to turn it over, go through a few phases, and after working their way up to the 22, R.A. Snyman, from what seems like much further out than one should be able to reach the line, bursts up and just levers out his right arm and plants the ball over the try line for Leinster's bonus point try, converted ably by Sam Prendergast. Bath restart, and Leinster play off their own half and eventually, or attempt a few phases to play out of their own half, but eventually Jamie Osborne clears upfield. This leads to some kick tennis between Russell, Barrett and Sam Prendergast, eventually causing Sam to just try to run it himself up the left wing, but he runs up a blind alley, gets outnumbered and ends up unfortunately getting turned over on the ground. Bath then get a chance to kick to the corner, but knock on off the line out, giving Leinster a scrum. But this then, in a series of kind of slightly confusing back and forth events, the Leinster scrum, which Bath win a free kick off the back of. They can't then call for the second scrum under the new rules. So they try to go for a tap and pass off the ground. But that itself is called back because they're judged to not have actually tapped the ball with their foot. So it reverts back to being a Leinster scrum, which they win a penalty off the back of, giving Sam Prendergast a chance to clear it up the line. Leinster go up, and the line goes a bit awry, and it looks like Bath are about to turn it over, but just in time to save Leinster, the referee himself actually gets in the way, causing a bit of obstruction. So it's judged to be a Leinster scrum, and unfortunately, small actions having large consequences. This scrum leads to another Leinster penalty, and the very unfortunate Ben O'Bano is given a yellow card for the second time, which leads to him eventually getting the red card that he avoided in the first half. I said it felt like he did well to avoid the red card in the first half, and I still agree with that. But I will say it does always feel quite harsh when a player gets a technical yellow card, which becomes a red. So Bath at this point now down to 14 men, and O'Bano off for the rest of the game. Leinster kick to touch and play off the line out. They play a couple of phases in the middle of the field, and then a very nice Sam Prendergast step through right up the middle of the field. He breaks up, offloads to Robbie Henshaw, and the ensuing chaos means that he can, I think it's Gibson Park, can throw a nice pass and send Gary Ringrose twirling his way over the try line for another Leinster score. Bath restart, and at this stage, Rabah Slimani, who put in another excellent shift for a fellow his age and who probably didn't expect to be playing this many starting minutes, put in another excellent shift in that scrum. He's replaced by Thomas Clarkson, and Gus McCarthy comes on to replace Ronan Kelleher. Leinster kick up field, and Hugo Keenan gives chase and managed to hack it through. Bath managed to regather, but over their own try line, and Keenan tackles them there, giving Leinster a 5 meter scrum. And at this stage, Ross Maloney, to a decent amount of applause from an appreciative Leinster crowd, is replaced by Van Wyck in the second row. And Ross Byrne comes on to replace Sam Prendergast. Phase play off the back of that scrum gets Leinster close, but Ross Byrne attempts a crossfield kick, and it just sits a little bit too far behind Jordy Barrett. So he's left standing, waiting for the ball to come to him, and when he does catch it, he's fairly easily bundled into touch. Off the back of that play, after no more than a minute, Charlie Ewells actually is called ashore for a HIA. So Ross Maloney comes back on a minute after walking off. Bath take the line out, but knock it on. Giving Leinster this scrum. Leinster play off the back of it. Gibson Park attempts, with no indication of any kind of penalty advantage, he attempts a little chip over the top, but it's covered infield by Bath, giving them a goal line dropout to clear. The goal line dropout is gathered and carried back up the field by Caelan Doris. Jordy Barrett attempts a little grubber up the right wing, but it's blocked by a foot and goes into touch, giving Leinster another line out just inside the Bath half. They play off the back of that, but Gary Ringrose attempted grubber up the left-hand side is gathered and cleared back. Ross Byrne returns, Bath respond again, and Byrne is able to find grass with his second kick in the Bath back right field. And a lovely chase up by Hugo Keenan puts them under... a lovely Hugo Keenan chase manages to send the ball loose, and Gibson Park, who's been following up behind him, kicks it through and sprints after it and is able to get a try. Very nice heads-up play by both Keenan, who demonstrated again that his aerial skills are absolutely a huge part of why he played fullback for Ireland unopposed for 4 years, and then Gibson Park just running another excellent support line and finishing the try really well under quite a lot of pressure from chasing Bath players. Conversion again, good, and Bath restart again. Gary Ringrose attempts to carry up, but is fairly well put on his arse, and Leinster end up kicking to clear. Bath return, but this is where Ross Byrne managed to find grass in the right backfield, and a really nice chase up by Gary Ringrose playing on the right wing, and Caelan Doris, ever present at all attacking and defensive rooks, managed to put enough pressure on them to force a turnover penalty rather, giving Leinster possession just inside the Bath 22 and a kick to the corner from there. This was one of the strangest things, and I didn't actually see this when I was in the stadium. I only realised it when I watched after the game. It's a Leinster line out, I'd say about 10 metres out from the Bath line, and they go to first position, and for some reason at first position is Gary Ringrose. He does catch the ball successfully, but it's, I think, Ari Snyman is pinged for, I think it's double banking, and getting in front of the man, so Bath are able to clear the touch and play off the top of the line out, and Finn Russell then from a line out on Bath's left wing plays into Russell in the middle of the field, and he's able to kick crossfield and find a really nice 50-22. I think Hugo Keenan let it bounce thinking it was going to bounce outside, and the bounce just caught him off balance just enough that it went out just inside Leinster's 22. So Bath line out just inside the Leinster 22, but they lose the line out. It's gathered by Joe McCarthy, and then they actually infringe. So Leinster are able to clear again. They win the line out, carry hard upfield. Gus McCarthy has a really nice break up the left wing, but is eventually turned over. And Bath attempt to play turned over cleanly, and Bath attempt to play back out of their own half, but end up knocking the ball on, giving Leinster another scrum. At this point, Hugo Keenan is replaced by Jimmy O'Brien off the bench. Leinster, it's a Leinster scrum and another Leinster scrum penalty. Leinster up to kick down the line to touch again. Bath, though, are able to get up, win that line out, and clear. But Leinster attack again back up the field, and Bath are penalised for playing the 9. The tackle on Luke McGrath, and Leinster again clearly with intent on running up the score as much as possible. Kick to touch again. At this point, Robbie Henshaw is, I think, pretty fairly awarded player of the match. In the line-out, Slimani initially claims the line-out, but he's judged to have been taken in the air by the Bath player. So Bath in French there, and Leinster kick up again, right to the 5 meter line. They play off the top of Leinster, rather play off the top of that, and Slimani is again able to force his way over the line for yet another Leinster try. Bath restart, but not gone inside the Leinster half, and given Leinster a scrum, Leinster play off the back of it and fly upfield, surge upfield, but are forced to, in a slightly overambitious move, end up passing to touch. Leinster infringe, giving Bath the opportunity to kick. Very nice line kick actually from Finn Russell. I don't know if it's something he's often complimented for, but he gets it right up into the Leinster 22. However, Leinster are able to, I think it's Slimani, I don't even know if he was lifted or if he just jumped, but he's able to steal the line out
one-handed.
And after 80 minutes clock in the red, Leinster decide they're going to keep on playing, and they do. And it's a period of play that is actually some of the nicest rugby they played on the night, and they managed to run their way almost all the way up into the Bath 22 from their own 5 meter line. And ultimately, it's a slightly overambitious pass that ends up going forward and ending the game. Full time in the match is Leinster 47, Bath 21.
Yeah, I mean, at halftime, I said on Blue Sky that, with the yellow card and all, it was going to take. I said there was a big 10 minutes coming up, right? Which of course that almost virtually guaranteed that it wouldn't be until the 51st minute that we actually finally got that bonus point try. But it was a long time coming. We tried a couple of things and it didn't quite work out. There was that crossing, and there was Josh couldn't hold that one out in the wing, but we got the score in the end. And then of course, like you say, you had that freak with the red card. It is very unusual. He was unlucky, but he was we said already this particular player was giving penalties already at previous stages of the game. I thought it could have been a bit harsh giving the penalty there. Or giving the card for that infringement, but like Rich said, they were on a kind of a warning. They were giving away a lot of penalties, and the ref decided at this stage he gave the yellow card. I think he'd forgotten that was the one guy but so the rules dictate it became a red, and it is true. We kicked on from there. We needed all those points because we didn't know what was going to happen with Toulon on the Sunday, so we needed to rack up the score, and we obviously went on and did that. The only other thing you mentioned, Ross Maloney there, was good to see him get an ovation. It was funny. It's kind of funny the way he got a good cheer before the game when his name was called in the Bath lineup. And then the stadium announcer went, "Give a big Aviva cheer for Ross Maloney," as he was going off, and everyone, yay. And then a minute later, he had to go, "Ross Maloney returning to the field." And then he had to go off again. So we got these first 4 opposition players to get 4 big cheers from the home crowd at a Leinster game. But anyway, listen, we got there in the end. What did you make of it, Rich?
Yeah, that was probably quite possibly the most complete half of rugby that we've played all season. Admittedly against 14 men, but still, there's many occasions where you end up playing a depleted side. But certainly from an aspect of our play that we've been criticizing pretty much all season, which is attack. It looked an awful lot better. There was much more ingenuity. Things that we've long known to associate with Leinster on the front foot. The passing was crisp. The moves were intricate, but simple within the intricacy and the complexity, which were designed to befuddle the opposition defense. We managed to manipulate their defense. The fact of the matter is we scored 4 unanswered tries in that second half. Kept them scoreless, so the D was working, and certainly Bath didn't get the freedom of the city that they got in that first half. In that second, we just kept them under pressure all right throughout that second half. So yeah, that people may point to say, that the score flatters Leinster. We were playing against 14 men for large swathes of that game. But the fact of the matter is, to repeat something that is often repeated, is you can only play what is in front of you. And I don't think the 47 points were a flattery. I don't think we would have won by that margin had Obano stayed on the pitch. But I still think we would have won. The momentum was with us. I didn't see, there was no, even when we were 14-0 down, I never, and you get a sense in matches when you think, we've lost this one, or this was completely the opposite. I just never felt at any point in that match that we weren't going to win it and win it well. And that's not arrogance, it's just the way what was coming off television screen, and the body language of the players and the momentum that as it was developing throughout the match. So I think it was a good match of rugby, certainly for the neutral. It really was a good match, and I think Bath can hold their heads well high. They played well when they played. It's just that the better team won on the day, and I know it's a cliche, but that is what it was. And I think that second half really displayed what we can do to teams and what we have been doing to teams historically. It could even have been worse for Bath. The fact that we carried on playing after that 80th minute, I think, is because we obviously didn't know what the Sale Toulon result was going to be today, and we wanted to make really certain that Toulon didn't pip us for that second seed. It turned out to be academic, but hey, we didn't know that yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think it puts that in a nutshell. I think we were deserved winners, especially the way we played the second half. Maybe got a bit lucky with the margin, but then again, we were forcing the penalties. Like, Slimani was winning those penalties again and again. So Bath they were doing other penalties as well, a lot of tackling off the ball, like we said, and which was kind of forced, which kind of ways that they were trying to get at us and to halt our attack. The only concern I had, I suppose, if I had any concerns with 14-0 down, is that we have had attacking issues of late. We've been relying on our defense. So the question that follows from that is, if you go down in the game and you need points quickly, what's the story? But we scored so quickly then, and we pulled back the lead so quickly that those issues were gone. And in the end, like we say, the final score was Leinster 47, Bath 21. Well, elsewhere in the rugby world, after also losing 2 early tries at home to Premiership opposition and turning things around, Ulster actually crept into the knockout stages after their big winning margin plus Bordeaux over the Sharks put Richie Murphy's side into 4th spot in Pool 1. Also on Friday night in the Challenge Cup, Connacht won at Cardiff to secure top seed and home advantage as they bid to return to the Welsh capital for the final. And ironically, it's that same region they will play in the last 16. Then on Saturday afternoon, after reffing one nail-biter of a match between La Rochelle and Leinster last week, Nika Amukusheri had another at Franklin's Gardens as Northampton held out Munster, and despite clawing back 2 poll points, it wasn't enough for our Southern cousins to earn a home last 16 tie. We will be going through both sets of knockout scenarios in the competitions in our bonus chat for the YouTube channel. Meanwhile, in the 5th round of the Women's Celtic Challenge competition, the Wolfhounds pulled 5 points clear at the top of the table after convincing 57-5 victory over Welsh side Brighton Thunder at Belfield Bowl on Saturday, which included 4 tries for Anna Doyle and 3 for Eva Dalton. The Cobras were actually off this weekend. Going back to our feature match from Friday, afterwards Leo Cullen had this to say, quote, "After a 6-day turnaround and against Bath, who are riding high at the top of the Premiership and have some great X-Factor players, to get that 4th win was very good," end quote. And from the fans' point of view, at the full-time whistle, Denise O'Brien said this on her Facebook page, quote, "Only just getting my breath back. Osborne, Henshaw, Slimani, outstanding. All subs made an impact," end quote. Do you disagree, or would you have said the same thing a different way? Well, we always leave a post open on the Facebook page after Leinster and Ireland matches. Why don't you join in the conversation next time? And so this brings us to our final thoughts, starting with Rich.
Yeah, just a couple of observations other than what I've already mentioned. It was interesting to see Bath targeting Sam. They went for him 3 times in that first quarter alone. We rejigged it, and they certainly that was it. It stopped after that. Those 3 attempts but the important thing here is he got clunked, he got bowled over, but he got straight back up again. I mean, he's a big lad. He's not he's no shrinking violet, and that was very good to see. So just that observation. I already mentioned about our attacking shape and how much better it was. The only other thing I'd mention, it was the selection for this match at the replacement fly half. I just could never understand why Ross was getting the nod over Frawley. Frawley gets selected for the Six Nations Ireland team over Ross. Yet, he's not entrusted with sitting on at the very least sitting on the bench in a Champions Cup match by Leo. I I don't understand it. I mean, I'm not going to proclaim that I know, well, certainly not know more about rugby and tactics and selection processes than Leo. And by and large, you have to trust their judgment, and I do. It's just that I fail to understand how I can't reconcile it in my own mind, given what we've seen Kieran Frawley can bring to the party. And obviously this is nothing personal against Ross, not by any stretch of the imagination, and it should never be against any player anyway. But I really don't understand it. I really hope that at least Kieran Frawley gets an opportunity to play next week before going off on the Ireland camp. I mean, he's shown pretty much what he can do. Whereas you compare that to Ross's style, and we've spoken about this previously. Ross is one type of 10, and Kieran Frawley is a different type of 10, as is Sam Prendergast. But there is more of a linkage just between Sam and Kieran than there is between those two and Ross. Ross is a different type of player for a different style of rugby, and we're not playing that style of rugby at the moment. So why play him? That's what I can't reconcile. But anyway, enough harping on that. I just like to say that as far as in my own opinion, who should be the backs for Champions Cup, and that should be Jamison, should be either Samuel or Kieran Frawley at 10. Lowe when fit, Geordie at 12 has to play at 12. Ringer has to play at 13. Jordan Lama at 14. He's been playing well. Hugo at 15, obviously. And the bench should be Luke stroke Gunn, Sam stroke Frawley, and Robbie on the bench. That would be my preferred options, I should say, for a Champions Cup match. But anyway, opinions are like castles, as everybody says. Everyone's
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're here for, to give our opinion. There's been a lot of debate over the Leinster position. I mean, I was expecting Frawley to be involved myself. I thought he might even start this game, like you say, with the Six Nations coming up. Apparently, there's been some issue online. Russ has been getting a lot of flack. Now, those people doing that stuff, they're not real supporters. I think they're like real supporters like us. We're just being honest about the players we want to see playing, and who we think is good and who's not, and that's all we're doing here. And I think we there's no problem us continuing to do that. What do you have, David?
I will. I mean, I've some thoughts, but I will say I do agree with what Rich said at the end there. I understand the instinct of wanting to get as many of your best players onto the pitch at one time, but I do think there's a danger of disregarding how important positional play is, and for us particularly in the back line. Gary is a very good player, but I don't know that, and he's probably good enough to be a reasonably decent club winger, but he's not. He's a test level 13. He could be a 13 for the Lions. He couldn't be a winger, or he shouldn't be a winger, even though I know Ireland have deployed him on the wing. I just think he's built. Maybe if that was a position he always played, it'd be different, but it's not. He's used to playing 13, and I think you do yourself a disservice, and you run the risk, particularly in a system that relies on players knowing their positions and knowing their roles and knowing where they need to be and when they need to shoot up, when they need to hold off, and when they need to be covering back. That kind of positional play differs, obviously, if the closer you are to the middle of the field versus the further you are out. So for me, I would always prefer if we have wingers playing on the wings and centers playing in the centers, and if you've got an extra player, put them at 23. And if players miss out, they miss out. I mean, we're in the enviable position where if everyone's fit, we will probably have a centre in the 23 jersey, because we have Gary Ringrose, Robbie Henshaw, and Jordy Barrett. You really can't leave any of those out of a match day 23 if you're being serious about wanting to win matches. So I think you're always going to have those being 12, 13, 23, and it's just really up to you on the day who picks which shirt. There's a lot to be said, for deploying, and I know there's talk about Ireland or Leinster being under restrictions about when and where they can play the likes of Ari Slimani, but having him come off the bench is a huge boost for a team in the second half, particularly if you still have work to do. So having Ari Slimani in to bolster the pack, and someone like Barrett to bolster the backs, could be a live option as well. But I'd always want if it's Jimmy O'Brien on the right wing over an out of position centre. Jamie Osborne's probably gone slightly better on the left wing, given that he has a lot more experience playing fullback. But I kind of even feel with him, it's a weird situation this year because we have Barrett on the 6-month contract, and it feels like you should play him as much as you have him. But in an ideal world, I would have James Law on that left wing. I wouldn't have Jamie Osborne there. I'd have him at 15 sooner, and you could trade off between him and Keenan. Keenan was brilliant. Osborne's shown that he's more than capable of stepping into that position. But yeah, I do think that kind of positional play is a lot more important, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes for England, given that there's talk that they're going to play, in light of how good Finn Smith has been over the last while, they're going to play Marcus Smith at fullback in the opening game against Ireland. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes, because I don't think, while it can work, and obviously Bowden Barrett has done it, Jack Crowley has done it, I think they might be selling themselves short in terms of some of the things that make a fullback that aren't just being an out half further back in the field. So we'll see how that goes. And then there's just other little things in an otherwise pretty fantastic performance. I do think Sam Prendergast is sometimes shows how he's still quite young, choosing to carry the ball up a blind alley. That's not the first time I've seen him do that either. He's a big lad. I think he took it personally when people said he wasn't physical. He's well over 6 foot. He's the same height as Keane, actually. He's just not quite as big as him. He's bigger and tall. He's taller and heavier than Jack Crowley. He just looks lighter because because of his height. So I think he's taken it personally as wanting to prove that he's as big and strong as everyone else. But I do think there are better ways to do that than running up blind alleys, particularly for a 10. But I mean, that if that's the biggest complaint you have about someone's game, then you're in a pretty good position. So overall, I thought it was a very good performance across the board.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line overview for Leinster was going into this Champions Cup campaign, it was get top 2 seed. That's it, and they did that. And from the point of view of Bath, we got the win. We got the tries we needed. It was sort of a really good crowd as well, over 40,000, and it was just job done on that. All we can say now is see what happens when Leinster, for Champions Cup wise anyway, comes back. What kind of players we get back after the Six Nations, and how we go from there. But up to now, it's been job done, that's for sure. Well, that's brilliant, lads. Many thanks again to Rich and David for joining me. Hope to have you back on again soon. Thanks, lads.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
As for our next batch of Harpin, we'll have our 80-plus column posting on Wednesday. Then we'll be turning our attention to the visit of the Stormers to the Aviva next weekend. So please be sure to follow us on any or all of our social media platforms, which you'll find at linktree/Harpin On Rugby. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.